An intellectual carrot, the mind boggles.
You see? You see? You're stupid minds! Stupid! Stupid!
Earth has had Santa Claus long enough. We will bring him to Mars.
I've been afraid a lot of times in my life, but I didn't know the real meaning of fear until I had kissed Becky.
One thing will be clear. It's not for man to interfere in the ways of God.
It's alive. Oh, it's alive. It's alive. It's alive.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Earth vs. Soup, episode 182. I'm Aaron Pollier.
I'm Darlene.
We watched an Italian film for this episode. It is called An Angel for Satan, 1966. Now, the reason why I chose that movie, this movie, was just because of the title. The title alone, it looked, that just sounds great. All right. Obviously, I looked to see if it was horror or science fiction or supernatural beforehand. And yes, that is involved in this in some way, shape, or form. Okay.
It's supernatural.
It's
not
sort of.
It's not science fiction.
It is not, but it's supernatural.
Or...
It does fit into Earth versus Soup. It does. And then I saw like the movie poster, and I'm like, okay, yeah, that's cool. And I further looked at the cast of it. And we saw Barbara Steele. And Darlene, you were looking up Barbara Steele, and you saw her. What? Talk about what you saw.
Go. I noticed that she was in a lot of films, Italian films, and the last thing that I noticed was, I think this is her last Italian Gothic horror.
Yeah, but you specifically said right before we started recording that she was in a lot of Gothic horror movies.
Yes.
Okay, which was what I was trying to get at. Since you're the one that brought it up before we started taping, I wanted you to bring it up now.
It's 90 minutes long.
So she's really well known in the Italian film industry. Is she a good actress? I'll even talk about this before we get into the plot. Yes.
Yes, she is.
She is a good actress. I want to watch more films with her in them of her Gothic horror stuff because, yes, like you said, this is this might be her last film, really. It's not her last film. She's actually in a lot of stuff after this, I should say, but it's one of her last Gothic horror Italian movies before she moves into other genres. I want to watch more from before this because she's still a young woman in this before she kind of moves on, and I want to see her catalog. That does mean watching more Italian films, but that's not a bad thing in this case. We watched this, like you said, it's 90 minutes long. We found it actually on YouTube dubbed. You can get it on Amazon Prime. And so the version that we found on YouTube might not be there when this episode gets released. So please show support to this movie by going to Amazon Prime first and foremost.
In the 90s, it was released as a DVD in the United States.
Okay. I can see why. I mean, I'm saying I liked this film. I'm glad I watched it. Darlene's like... Even before we get into the plot and discuss the ups and downs of the movie, you're like, I don't know.
I don't know.
I can see why people like this, though.
I got to get to understanding this evil eye thing of the...
Oh, the Italian evil eye. This is a big deal in this movie, this kind of idea of the evil eye, but you're not really sure where it's going. And the movie is confusing in parts, okay? So... Before we get into the plot, Barbara Steele plays a woman named Harriet. Harriet is seemingly possessed by a woman named Melinda or Belinda, okay? And this is a problem with the dubbing because there are two women that actually have very similar names that we have a flashback with that are Melinda and Belinda, but it's difficult to understand who she is being possessed by when she's referring to herself as Melinda, and it sounds like like that. The dubbing, whoever dubbed the voice, it's difficult to understand. Everything else about the dub that we watched, perfectly clear. For whatever reason that was. So I apologize for any confusion that we might have with that. I don't know if I can hold that against the film, especially since we did not watch the original Italian version, which might have been very clear about that.
And one of the things I noticed was the male main character, that the character is Roberto. And sometimes when they say his last name, it's in Italian.
Yeah, Marigi.
But when they're saying Roberto, they're actually a lot of times translating it and saying
English.
Yeah.
They're like Robert.
That's the same
Victor,
thing.
Carl.
Yeah. And
Things
sometimes
like
Carl is Carlos.
Carlo.
Or Carlo. But a lot of times they just say Charles. And it's the same character in this dubbing.
Yeah, I think the script that they used for the dubbing was faulty. But I'm not holding that against this movie. So if we have, to those of you that are listening, if you think we're being confused about certain characters, like you've watched this before, because we've never seen this before, correct?
No, I haven't.
Okay, I have not seen it. If you have seen it and you're like, guys, you are insane, you're terrible reviewers, you don't know what the hell you're talking about, you clearly didn't watch this movie, please understand that we watched the dub and the dub was confusing in some parts, but we're not holding that against this movie at all, or at least we shouldn't.
We shouldn't.
And I will say that I am doing my best not to, because I think that the confusion with the names thing I can completely ignore.
Yeah. You did say one thing that was really good. There's a part where you get introduced to most of the characters.
So let's get into the plot.
I was going to say one other thing.
Okay.
This movie couldn't have been so bad because it made 87 million Italian lira at the time.
I don't know how many 87 million lira are. I'm sure that's actually not a ton of money, but I mean, it made money. It made money. There was an actual reported box office. Now, that being said, everyone in this movie involved went on to do other work, so I don't think it was considered a flop. And if you look at the ratings that people give it even today, they're decent ratings. They're above average. So this is a pretty well-liked movie, and I'm sure that there are people out there listening that have seen this and adore this movie. So let's talk about it. Let's get into the plot. We open with a boat being rowed across the lake, and I actually started writing like notes on how they were shooting this, because I was like, this is pretty artistic. Here you have a boat being rowed across a lake where it's very misty and foggy and you don't see the shore. Okay, everyone's wearing these kind of like large black hats so you can't really see their faces well, and black cloaks. And I'm like, is this supposed to be a representation of like the river Styx? What are they doing here with it? It's interesting.
But you do see some of the mountains outlined.
After a little bit, you do start seeing some of the mountains as they get closer to shore. And then the camera jumps to shore and there's like a pier. But I thought it was well shot, and it kind of gave this very eerie atmosphere right away. It did really well to set the stage while the credits were rolling on top of it. A man gets out, and a guy named, nicknamed the Sergeant, because he used to serve in the military. His name is actually like Alfred, or at least in the dub that we watched. But let's just call him Sergeant. Okay, the sergeant meets this guy and takes his bag, and we have some local women that are youngish women that are at the lake for some reason. I think they're washing clothes, because I think we see those women all the time washing clothes. At the lake, and they remark about how this new man is very handsome. I'm like, okay, a little bit of gossip, that's okay. And we follow Alfred, the sergeant, and this man through the streets of this village, and there's a guy that just kind of runs past screaming holding an axe, and there's like blood on his shoulder. And this new guy kind of stops and looks at him and goes, "The hell's going on here?" And the sergeant's like, "Don't worry about it.
That's Victor.
That's Victor. Vittorio is the character's name in the original. Vittorio. That's Victor. Don't worry about him. He's I'm not going to go into the quotes. He's effectively a mentally handicapped person that they allow to have an axe because he cuts wood, and he often hurts himself badly. And the only person that he allows like to sew him up is the school teacher."
The new school teacher.
The new school teacher. So he's running through the village to go to the school to get sewn up because I guess he axed himself in the shoulder.
He's supposed to be like a gardener.
He's like a gardener or a groundskeeper, something like that. And this seems very strange. That
and we find out he's kind of a mute.
I don't know what. Yeah, he doesn't speak. He grunts. He's handicapped of some sort. You know, he's somehow mentally handicapped. I don't want to like diagnose the guy. He's a character that they did not write as an accurate depiction of anything, right? So we're not going to judge that. So we have this guy arriving at this beautiful manor home, and he walks up these marble steps. To me it is clearly in the middle or lower Italy because of the palm trees. It was filmed around Rome. So it makes sense. Again, a beautiful villa. And he goes in, and we're introduced to him finally as Roberto. And we meet the man who owns this manor house, the Count. And he's like Count Montebruno or something like that.
Yes.
But he's just the Count. And the Count says that the lake has been lower this year, and they have pulled up a statue that used to be here on this manor. And this statue has a long history with this village. Like 200 years ago, this statue was carved. I think it was 200 years ago. And it was thrown into the lake off the staircase that he just basically walked up. And it killed people, and the village think that there's a curse. The villagers think there's a curse around this statue, and that it demands sacrifice now and then. And I thought, okay, is this going to get into like some weird ass Lovecraftian, like it's an actual like demon or something like that? Like I don't know. It was very strange how the Count was just very flippant about these legends.
And Roberto is asked to come because he's a painter and sculptor to refurbish.
Yes, because it has damage to it being thrown into the lake, right?
Yes.
All right. So Roberto's a skilled sculptor and painter, like you said. He does not believe in curses, and we learn that almost immediately that the boatmen that brought him are dead because they went to have a quick drink before going back across the lake, and their boat overturned, and supposedly they were good swimmers, but they just still like drowned immedientely in the lake. It's like a rowboat.
Watched him drowned too.
Yeah, and then people like went out there to rescue them, but they drowned. They went down so quickly that no one could save them. Like they couldn't even paddle water for a little bit. So I'm like, okay, either there's something living in the lake, or
something they drank.
Or something they drank basically poisoned them so they couldn't move.
So we'll find out.
We'll get there, okay? Because we always spoil every movie that because I mean, come on, these movies are like 60 years old that we tend to watch. Let's be fair, spoilers. So we finally see this statue in the workshop, and it's actually a really nice. It is a really nice, and I'm sorry, I'm going to adjust my microphone here for Darlene. We see a really nice statue. It's a marble statue.
With muck on it, and...
Yeah, there's muck on it. There's like... seaweed.
Not
stuff
seaweed,
like
but it would be...
It's just weeds.
It's weeds. Water. The water.
And Roberto is already starting to kind of pick away at it. And he realizes that, yeah, whoever was the model for the sculpture was beautiful. It is a beautiful statue. we also here have a scene with the Count and a woman named Ilda. Ilda turns out to be the headmistress or the housekeeper of the house. She's not in like a servant's type clothes. She is clearly well-to-do, and therefore that's why I always say she's the mistress, because she is a kept woman by the Count. Now I thought, okay, hold on, we need to understand the relationship here, because supposedly Harriet is coming to visit, and Ilda is worried about meeting her for the meeting her. It comes across in this discussion here that she's going to be meeting her for the first time,
But she's not.
but she's not. They've known each other since Harriet left for school, for college, and Harriet is coming back from college. So that means, let's say she left at 16 to go to college. Ilda has been around since she was a child.
But Harriet later on says she was 15 years in London for education.
Yeah, so it's strange. I don't know how old is Barbara Steele supposed to be.
Maybe she's trying to play a 25-year
looking
old,
this up.
and that would put her 10 years old,
I
going to England
I don't
and
know.
going into the
I'm
schools.
actually looking it up, Darlene. She was born in 1937, so she was, 29 years old when this movie was made? So let's just use that as a rough guide. She was 29 years old. She was 15 years in London, you said?
Yeah, it said 15 years.
Okay, so
in
she
London.
left when she was 14. She clearly knew Ilda, because Ilda said she knew her when she was a child.
Well, it's also when they're introduced. She's the Count is introducing her to all the people. William the butler, Victor as the gardener, Rita as her personal maid, Sergeant as the handyman. But Illa is introduced. You know her. She was your governess.
Yeah, but that's the next scene. You've jumped ahead a scene, completely missing one very important scene.
I just was making.
Okay, but yeah, she was the governess. You clearly knew her. Why are you having this issue? I don't understand that, and I don't know.
What issue are you saying that she had?
Ilda said she was nervous about meeting her for the first time in that last scene.
It was more of that she was worried about being misplaced because she's been in charge of the house. The Count was saying, finally we get Harriet here, who's going to be the mistress of the house. And Ilda says, I've been the mistress of the house.
Okay, I did not get that.
I did.
That's fine. We can have differing views on that, but that's fine. So we go to an actual bar in the village, and Roberto is there drawing the patrons of this bar.
Yes.
And we are introduced to this big guy. I think his name is Carlo.
Carlo, yes, it is.
And he's like the biggest man in the village.
He's taking on the whole. He pushes the legend. He pushes the legend by causing a scene with Robert.
How is he pushing the legend?
He's mad because Robert is fixing the statue, and they brought it up, and he causes a fight because. And you're drawing pictures, and that's witchcraft, and
you're taking our souls, that kind of thing. And I guess Carlo is the only one really willing to fight about this, because it's him and Robert that basically kick the shit out of each other. And it's actually a pretty well choreographed fight. Like, it looks like they're actually hurting each other. But it turns out Robert's like, screw this, I'm out. And he just leaves his drawings for them to destroy. He doesn't care.
Carlo already...
He tore them, but he didn't burn them. But he's like, screw it, I'm just going to leave all my supplies in there. Because he doesn't take a thing. He just walks out.
He walks out, yes.
He's done. So then while he's like washing his bloody face in the fountain, we're introduced to the teacher of the village. Now, what's the teacher's name? Dario.
Did I miss a R in there when I was hearing it?
Dario. So Dario is the school teacher, and he's a young man. He's a handsome man. And we just meet him, and
I find him more handsome than
our lead.
Our lead.
I don't know, maybe, but he's out to meet a woman. Now I'm going to skip ahead a little bit by saying we know who that woman is. That woman is Rita, the maid, the lady's maid, I should say, of Harriet when we meet Harriet. So the next scene is actually Harriet arriving and being introduced to all the house workers. And I really liked this scene because there's a lot of little characters in this that actually do have a place in the plot, right?
And it grounds them into having a place around the manor, too.
Yes, you know where they're supposed to be, what their duties are, and if they have any history with Harriet.
The people.
Or like with specific people. Because we know about Rita, the lady's maid, is dating the Dario, the school teacher. We're introduced to Sergeant, again, who is
the handyman,
who actually seems to be the most like level-headed dude around.
Yes, very much.
I really like that guy. Like, I wish he was in the movie more because he's a charming. The actor,
but if
really
they
charming.
had it more, him in there more, it would be more of the confusion that is in the movie, that's supposed to be in the movie, coming clearer.
Maybe.
So, having a clear-headed as a secondary character is pretty good in this writing of this.
So we go back out to the workshop, and we have Robert working on the statue, and he meets a little girl named Barbara. And she is the daughter of the big guy that beat the hell out of him the night before. She's a charming little girl who's just like, I don't know why you came to work on the statue. Everybody in the village is scared of it because it has a curse. And he's like, well, you don't seem to be scared. And she's like, no, I like curses and
witches and
witches and curses and monsters. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, we have a Wednesday Addams. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that because this girl's like a happy little girl who's just like, I'm not afraid of it.
She's not a Wednesday's Addams.
No, she's not, because she's a happy little girl
she just likes the stories.
Yeah, she likes the stories. So she's not scared of it. And plus, it's just a statue. Right? Like, there's nothing scary about it. So we go to dinner with the Count and Harriet and Robert. And Robert says that Harriet and the statue look exactly the same. Clearly, whoever made the statue used Barbara Steele as a model for it. Because they are similar, but now we get an explanation of why. Okay, because the Count explains that an ancestor posed for the statue 200 years ago, and her name was
Belinda.
Yes. So Belinda or Melinda,
but nobody talks about Melinda at this time.
There's a Melinda or Belinda, I don't know. Okay, so anyway, Robert wants her to pose for him because the statue's face is slightly damaged, and she kind of is hesitant at first, but then says, fine, I understand why you're asking me for that. And it came across as, I know that, it comes across that she feels that men ask her to pose for them often because she is a striking, beautiful woman, and that she was hesitant because obviously this guy's coming on to her. That's what it came across as. I thought it was very good acting because none of that is said. But then she kind of like shrugs and goes, okay, I understand why you're asking me because yes, that statue does look like me. That night in bed, Robert mutters about being thirsty. He's like, I'm so thirsty. So thirsty. And then he wakes up and we hear a woman's voice calling out to him. So he gets up, watches as his bedroom door opens, and then sees nothing in the hall. He then walks upstairs to the attic, and the voice says, and this is what I have, it says that their name is Belinda. Okay? A painting unrolls and says, she's the woman in that painting. Like, the voice says, I'm the woman in this painting. Ooh! And she says that she needed to be loved, but was scorned by men because she was ugly. Was she ugly in any of the flashbacks that we saw? No. She's a pretty woman. Is she as pretty as Harriet / whatever the ancestor's name was? Played by
We
Barbara
don't know
Steele?
whether it's Belinda or Melinda because there's a second sister, Melinda, that was
the name gets me confused. Yeah.
That was
We should just say the ancestor and then the sister of the ancestor.
The
'Cause the
sister
name-
of the ancestor
Yeah.
was always out and outgoing, and why Belinda,
The ancestor.
the ancestor, thought she was ugly was because her sister was always courted by other men.
Yeah, and I guess like she felt that she was scorned and decided to destroy the statue and curse everyone that looked upon it or looked
Because
upon beauty.
something about falling in love with a sculptor,
Yeah.
and it was her lover or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know.
And that the sister would always take the ancestors.
Yeah.
There are sisters that do that.
So she warns Robert that Harriet is cursed and a witch, and that she will be the downfall of Robert if he stays. So, we have a scene where Harriet and her lady's maid Rita are having a talk in her room, and Rita admits to being in love with the school teacher Dario. Okay. We then also have a scene where Robert goes back to the attic the next day to try to figure out what the hell happened, because he's like, was I having a fever dream? I feel like hell today.
Well, he also wakes up as ill.
Yeah, he's ill, but he goes back up to the attic and he's like, what the hell's going on? He cannot find the painting, but he sees a hole in the wall. He's like,
hole in the
is it chimney?
It's a chimney.
Yeah, so he sees a hole in the chimney. He's like, huh, okay. I give the guy credit for like keeping a cool head, right?
Yep.
Like, fair enough. So Harriet now claims like she has these episodes, and I'm gonna have to like try to pass over certain scenes because there's lots of scenes here that are very well done. Don't think when I'm skipping over them that I'm skipping over them because they're boring. They're not. They're slightly confusing with the dub of who she is at a very specific moment, because to try to sum all of these up, Harriet seemingly is possessed by Melinda Belinda, the ancestor that she looks exactly like, who is an awful human being. She seems to do so after midnight, like when the clock chimes. That seems to like.
Is that what that's supposed to symbolize?
Yes. And then she continues to be possessed for X amount of time. It doesn't.
But it does happen during the day, too. It
does happen during the day. I'm just saying, like, that's where a lot of this stuff, where the Count is downstairs and he's like
playing chess by himself.
That he hears like the chimes, and then we go up and we see like a change of look on Harriet's face. Again, Barbara Steele acts the hell out of this, and you can tell when she's changing. The difficulty with a lot of these scenes is that there are times where Harriet becomes Melinda, becomes Harriet, becomes Melinda, and
especially in one scene where she's with her maid.
Yes, where it's halfway through sentences, sometimes she shifts, and she does a very good job of showing it. That
the confusion.
Yeah, like the confusion. You know that it just happened, but because you're trying to go with the dialogue, and I again also give credit to the voice actress that did her voice in the dub, that she's doing a good job showing that allowing us to hear that confusion. But the point is that it's happening enough that it becomes confusing who is exactly who at times. I'm just saying that.
Harriet rides. Oh, and this one is one that I had to laugh about because I said it. Harriet's riding, and she's at first riding a black horse.
Oh, yeah.
Then at one point is a brown horse, and then it's back to the black horse. It looked like
there was a palomino at one point, like a blonde horse. Yeah,
that's what I said. It was a
brown. You said brown horse.
Dark brown horse.
Yeah.
Then it goes to the light
palomino type. Yeah.
And then it goes back to the dark.
Like in the long shots, it was the light colored horse.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very strange.
They had two horses that they.
That's okay. You know what? That's okay. That's such a minor point.
It just confused me because I thought it was two different
people. Yeah, two different people riding. I know. Darlene, I agree. And you know what? With you saying that, yes, that is kind of a strike. Because it is confusing, because you might think that is two different people. Like one person's chasing her or something like that. I can see that. That can be confusing.
But okay. Harriet rides to...
Well, yeah. Well, she's... we have a scene where they're with... Robert and Harriet are together with the statue, and then she suddenly gets, like, very forward. Let's put it that way. And, like, embraces him and kisses him, and then pushes him away, saying, you brute, what are you doing? And I'm like, oh. And this is where I'm saying, like, it's Harriet, then Melinda, then Harriet. And Harriet doesn't know. Or
maybe it's Miranda or Belinda and...
yeah. Well, but the point is that clearly Harriet didn't remember embracing him and kissing him, and then suddenly she's like posing, and then suddenly she's in his arms, like his mouth pressed against hers.
This is
you
where
can understand her confusion
time,
and anger.
I thought Belinda was the ancestor or the ancestor's sister. I don't know which one she's supposed to be portraying, but one of them is a very
flirtatious.
You're trying to I'm trying to think the word that I should use. Aggressive sexually person. And then I think that Melinda or the other one, I don't know which one, is very nun-like.
I wouldn't say that. I think here's the thing. Like,
but we find out in the end that it's totally something different.
Yeah, it's totally something different. But anyway, we also then go. Then we have this horse scene, okay, where she's riding out, and she sees Victor, the mentally handicapped person. Okay. And she asks him if he has ever seen a woman naked. And I'm like, oh God.
She comes across some burning logs and debris from the
brush.
He's been clearing brush from the lake.
And both of us groaned and went, oh no.
I had to walk out at this point.
No. And I said, hold on. Either this is going to be like 1970s Italian film where we're gonna have nudity and we're not gonna be able to talk about this on Earth versus Soup, or this is going to be artfully done in some way, shape, or form. And it turns out that neither of those choices happened, because she does strip naked.
And then she beats him.
Hold on. We don't see her naked.
No.
We see her from like the neck up. And of course, this poor guy, she's like ordering him not to look at her.
Get off my shoes so I can warm by your fire.
And she's completely naked.
And he's trying to get off her boots, and she's taking down her top.
Oh no, she's completely naked. Because we see in the shot looking down at him, her skirt's on the ground.
Oh, is that what that was?
She is completely nude. And this poor guy is doing his damnedest not to look, but he does, and then beats the hell out of him with a horse prop.
In the 1880s, 90s, a woman doing that,
an aristocratic woman,
that's high ranking. This was torture, because you're not supposed to even look.
But I mean, it's also that this guy isn't.
He's slow. Or autistic.
He's a child. He's effectively a child.
Yes,
okay?
And I think that
he has no control at all. And this guy looks at her, and I'm like, oh, you evil bitch. This is not Harriet, but whoever's possessing her is an evil, evil bitch. It's not just like toying with Robert, like kissing him and then like pushing him away or whatever. It's you purposely went out. Well, yeah, that was, but you purposely went out to this poor man and did this awful thing to him. F you. Like this really upset me.
Yes, it upset me. I left the room.
So then Harriet ends up going to see the big guy, Carl. And she fakes having an injured ankle, so he'll carry her back to the manor house. But
she's on a horse.
This is where both of us.
I would have put her ass on the doggone horse. Side saddle.
But this is where we both finally figured out what the hell was happening.
She's creating problems with the villagers.
She is purposely setting up people to have meltdowns, to completely lose their mind, because she's flirting with Carl, and Carl's not really having it. But then she does like that whole, remember the one of the episodes with the 10th Doctor? Like, I think it's his first episode, where he's like, I can take you down with like 7 simple words. Doesn't she look a little tired? Like, it's when Harriet says one thing to him, you can see his face change and go, oh shit, yeah, you're right. It's because whoever is possessing her, has that, like, I can see exactly how to destroy you, and I'm going to. Evil. Like, pure evil. And you know what? I will also say that whoever wrote this did a very good job. And again, Barbara Steele, the way she held herself when she was doing these little one-sentence destruction, like setting up everyone for failure, or what she did to poor Victor.
But at the end, I'm going to have to tell you, I can't say that Harriet is totally innocent.
Really?
Like they wrote her off to be.
Really? You think she's not? I think she is.
We'll discuss it then.
All right.
But then the next thing you have is, as Robert goes to the sergeant and asks to get a leather instrument bag that sank with the boat. And this was him starting the investigation, because you also have another scene where he's with the butler and shouts through the hole in the thing.
I think you're ahead again, but we'll go with it. We have 2 women find Natalie, another village woman, dead on the lakeside, and Harriet is accused of being a witch by the villagers at her funeral.
Well, on that grounds, it's because Harriet had talked to Victor about the 3 girls when she was seducing and...
Well, that's the point, is that Harriet / Melinda then accuses Victor of killing. It must have been him. He must have killed her and raped her because he's such a madman. You know he's crazy. And oh crap, yeah, this is her setting up everyone to kill each other. So we have a scene where Robert goes back up into the hole in the attic and then yells down into the hole.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have the butler saying, yes, I heard your voice. It was a little distorted, but I heard your voice perfectly fine, sir. So, boy, we have another scene where Harriet, I'm just going to say Harriet instead of Melinda or whatever, goes to screw with the teacher.
Yes.
And the strong guy, Carl, sees them kissing.
And then she changes.
Yes, because, no, hold on. I don't think she changes here. But the point of her screwing with the teacher is that she's trying to break him and Rita up.
Yes. And Carlos to
Carl,
or Charles, as they like to call it in English, making Charles go after...
that's a side effect, because she did not know he was going to walk by. See,
she set it up to go that way.
I don't think so. I don't get that. See, here, what happens? Let me finish what happens. So Harriet starts kissing on the teacher. All right, teacher Dario is into it because she's an attractive woman who's intelligent. You know what? I love Rita, but here's this woman. What am I going to be doing here right now? But Carl walks past, and you see the look on Harriet's face of shock that she sees him. And this is why I say she didn't expect it, because I think that was still the possession. She did not switch back to Harriet to push him away. That was a complete play.
That was a complete play by the possession. She looked up, and that's when she changed her course on pushing Dario
she changed
away.
her whole plan and said, I can destroy him 2 different ways by helping destroy Carl and him at the same time. So she screams, and Carl comes in and beats the hell out of Dario, because he thought that Dario, the teacher, was like assaulting her.
Because she sat there and made it sound like
He did. He did assault.
Well,
him.
she talked to Charles earlier about she was afraid of Dario chasing her.
Yes. So it's all these different like chess moves, and I think that might be like
that's why
a reference to the chess game always going on. That Harriet / whoever is doing this is playing a chess game, is playing with all the villagers as these pieces taking each other out. So we end up having a scene where Harriet and Rita now are together, and Harriet talks about how all men want her and that all men are filth, and that Dario is no different. He assaulted me. He just wants me. And then she drops her clothes in front of Rita again, like goes completely nude, and Rita doesn't know how to handle this. I mean,
and starts to try to undress Rita.
Yeah,
there is a very sexual.
Like, well, what? No, so Harriet goes to her jewelry box and gives her this necklace, and she's like, "You must go and tell him that you want nothing to do with him, that he's awful." And here's where I think the movie the movie does distract you from what's really going on, because Rita does go out to meet Dario and tells him she does not love him and wants him to leave, but she does so in like a dream like state,
like a
and I'm like, okay,
possessed state.
Yeah, like did Harriet possess her or like cast a spell on her? It turns out none of those explanations make sense. Like, this is the one thing that I don't think really Rita's behavior when she walks out, I don't think makes any kind of sense with what we know happens at the end.
Yes. But then the next thing we have is the kids going to school.
Well, yeah, he confesses his love and she tells him to screw off, and yeah, he collapses sobbing on the ground, right? So now, no, see, you jumped ahead a scene. Harriet faints with Robert and then accuses him of attacking her, and he denies it to the Count.
Yes, that
is the next scene. And he's like, Robert's like, look, everyone in this house is freaking crazy. The statue is done. I am going to leave. It will be done in, well, it's almost
day or
done.
two.
It's a day or two. Everyone stay away from me. You're all crazy. Good for him.
Not saying it, you're crazy, just saying.
But he's like, he knows what the hell's going on. Well, I mean, he doesn't know what the hell's going on.
He's
tired of it.
He's been investigating it.
So, the statue is complete, and he's it's put into its former place, and then Harriet comes to try to talk to Robert at the statue, and it actually seems like Harriet, because she's being kind and not like manipulative. Remember where they're sitting at the statue, and then Robert is so disgusted with her that he backhands her hard, and she flings herself to the ground. Like, it's actually like, whoa, wow, what the hell? Like, this guy just backhands her. And she goes to the ground, and he walks off without a word. I was like, okay, yeah, I have my notes in order. And then we go to the scene with the children going to school, and they find the teacher dead. He hung himself from the rafters. And holy crap, guys. Holy crap. And it's Barbara that really finds him. The little girl that we talked to earlier. Yeah, this guy's just hanging there. They don't just like show his feet. This is a full guy hanging from the rafters. Obviously they had him like with a wire or something like that. But the way it's framed in the shot
and
is
the child
shocking.
Actress, the
did
other
really
ones just stood there and stared, like she did a very good job.
Like, yeah, she didn't even know what to say or how to handle it. Like,
now, if you're listening to the American dubbed we did,
kids scream in the background.
Yeah, but her voice is that of a adult female.
Yeah,
trying to make it sound like it's a child, but it's it doesn't come off as a young adult.
A young adult. Yeah.
It doesn't come off as
so later
the
on
8-year-old that she's supposed to be.
Later on, we have we do have a funeral for Dario, and Rita sees the body, and seemingly snaps out of whatever the hell's happening with her, and she just completely breaks down, tears the necklace that Harriet gave to her off her neck, and throws it to the ground, and then throws herself to the ground. Like, I wrote down, she clearly doesn't understand what's happening.
No, she doesn't know what's going on.
And I will explain why I think I have an explanation now that I've actually spent about 3 minutes thinking about it. I do have an explanation for Rita's behavior, but I'll talk about it. Well, no, I will talk about it after we get to the end because it won't make sense until then. Victor then attacks one of the village women at night and starts to sexually assault her.
And the other one is walking behind.
So yeah, this other woman sees him and screams and runs for help, and he chases her, and the villagers, with good reason, kill him. I mean, for good reason to them.
They didn't need to kill him.
No,
they just needed to subdue him.
Okay, but
because he did have an axe in his hand.
He was hurling an axe around. Yeah. He was a danger to everybody around him, and let's be fair, he did sexually assault a woman.
Yes.
Yes, they should have subdued him, but big guy, axe.
And this is where they know that he was the one that killed the other one.
Maybe. Is that made clear? Everyone assumes he did, but they couldn't prove it.
Yeah.
Okay. So, villagers find the sunken boat that Robert had asked about earlier, and it turns out that they can see that it was purposely damaged. That it didn't just, like, flip over randomly and sink. That the people on the boat had no chance. There was a big hole in the side.
Yeah, and this is where I think, because they're fishermen, they probably know how to swim. That the whatever they were drinking was drugged.
Yeah. So they're out there at the lakeside, and they see a fire going on. They're like, wow, something is on fire. Maybe we should go out and check that out. So they do, and it turns out it's Carl's house. And we hear women screaming outside, all the babies are in there, all the babies. Because Carl ends up having, like, I guess he has a common-law wife. I don't know the exact relationship. Barbara is his favorite daughter. There are, like, 5 other kids that live there with him. And Harriet's been manipulating him to hate them all. And there's, like, the woman outside, all my babies are in there, all my babies are in there. And Robert is like, screw this, I'm going in. So he just walks into the house, grabs Barbara, because I guess that's the only kid that he could find, drags her out, she's limp in his arms, he sets her down on the ground, and she's still alive. Okay, she's still alive. And they're like, who did this? And Barbara says, it wasn't Papa. It wasn't Papa. Don't blame Papa. It was the witch that did this.
Burned the house.
Yeah. And she dies. And you have Carl kind of coming in singing happy that his house is gone because now he doesn't have to deal with his bitch family. And then he sees Barbara on the ground. And then again, there's a snap. And suddenly he's like, what the hell's happening?
And he walks into his burning house.
He's like, I'm done.
I'll go. He says something to Barbara about, I'll see you in a bit.
I'll see you in a bit, Barbara. And he walks into his burning house to die. And I'm like, Jesus. Okay, so hold on. We've just had like 3 kind of extreme events here. The backhanding of Harriet was good acting, but it was shocking that
it was the least of these.
Oh, I know, but it ramped it up. That's what I'm trying to say. You have this brutal backhanding. You have suddenly the teacher hanging from the rafters where all the kids find him, and then a whole bunch of dead kids, and then the father committing suicide by self-immolation. Wow. Okay, so we then have Robert like going, hey, look, you guys got to listen to me. And some of the villagers yell, you're in bed with the witch. You're living up at that manor home. We don't need to listen to you. And somebody else said, no, listen to him. He didn't have to go into that burning building to try to save Barbara, and he did. And he got hurt because he's slightly burned. You need to listen to him because he is a good guy. And he's like, look, this isn't magic. It's the work of killers. I've been gathering proof. Yeah, murderers. We need to solve this because it has nothing.
And I will give you justice.
Yeah, I will give you justice. And I'm like, hell yes, sir, you do it. So he goes back to the manor, and we see that the Count is hypnotizing Harriet, saying, you need to do this, you need to go into the village and confess to all these murders. And we're like, oh, so the Count has been manipulating.
So the whole
this.
thing of the chessboard that he's at on every midnight is the clue to everything.
Yeah, but it's still not the truth.
No.
It's not the truth yet. He's basically been hypnotizing her all the time, but then
and he'd
Robert
been doing
enters.
it when he was a kid, when she was a girl too.
Yeah, so Robert enters and hears this, and he goes, oh, I know who's responsible, and you're going to burn in hell, buddy. I'm going to get all the villagers here, and we're going to go Frankenstein on you. You know, we're going to get all the burning torches and take care of this crap.
That was not what he said.
No, but that's what it seemed like. That's the kind of emotion.
I will have you deal with this justice.
Robert is going to drag him personally out to the village, and at this point, like, Harriet's confused. She's not Harriet. She's not like this weird ancestor type hypnotized. She's just kind of there, out of it, because she's never really been snapped out of whatever.
And this is what makes you think that Rita was hypnotized.
Yes, it's because we don't see her directly leaving the room and leaving the house. That I think she was hypnotized and in a trance, and that's why we saw her acting the way she was. We just didn't see that happen. Okay.
And then you see.
And he's like, no, hold on. The Count's like, hold on, no, listen to me. I'm not the bad guy. You have this all wrong. I'm being controlled. Yeah, I might be the one hypnotizing people, but I'm being controlled. It's actually Ilda. And we see a secret door open, and Ilda comes out and guns his ass down.
Shoots the Count down.
And she's like, bitch, I've been responsible because I am the descendant of the person that Mulland or whatever, the one that was scorned.
And I will take down all of you Mount Borns.
Mount Bruno. And I'm the destroyer of love. I have done all of this. Ha ha ha. And she runs to the statue, grabs a hold of it, and throws her and the statue off the side of the stairway.
Completing the cycle.
Yeah, like completing the cycle. They go into the lake, and then we see the next day we see the sculptor leave on a boat.
With Harriet.
The end.
And I'm like, this still would have to be.
There are trials to be had.
There's still trials to be
there
had.
There are many trials to be had. This movie's fantastic, I thought. What works in it, Darlene? Even if it's confusing, this movie has many things going for it. What are your first things?
I like the acting. I didn't like the confusion.
But let's go with what we like. You like the acting. Obviously, Barbara Steele stands out. Fantastic actress. She deserves the leading role. She is first listed. Even on the movie poster. She deserves it.
I like the fact that there was an introduction to characters.
Yeah, clear introduction. I don't like that the one confusion with names that we have is with like whoever was supposed to be possessing her. I don't know.
That's probably the dubbing.
I'm not going to hold it against the movie. Yeah. What else worked? I can go with a couple things that work.
They needed to, but on that point there, they really needed to have somebody actually say the legend. Because you got pushed off of the legend like 4 different times.
We did get the because we had the whole flashback.
We have the flashback, but that's in his dream.
No,
you know,
it's not a dream. It's Harriet telling it.
Not Harriet. It was
Harriet under a trance telling it.
Was it Harriet or was it Elda? Ella.
It could have been Ilda. I'm thinking that it was Harriet under a trance. It could have been Ilda.
I think it was Ella.
Either way, we got told the.
But it wasn't so there, you know.
Sure, it was a little ethereal. Sure. Okay. I will say the sets all were very good in this.
It was definitely a place.
The manor home was definitely a place, but I'm thinking like the little bit that we saw of like the sculptor's hut. That was nice. It was simple. It wasn't overly ornate, but it didn't look cheap. It looked like it was actually there. I like the outdoor stuff, even the little village set with like the fountain.
I don't think that's a set.
No, but they used what they had well.
I'm saying I don't think those were sets that made it look better because they were using.
Yeah, but even if they were real places, which I think they were, yes. I'm saying good use of a place.
Yeah, and that looks like it used to be like it was a hotel or something.
It could have been. It could have been. It could have been an actual like manor home.
A villa from.
Yeah, that was later then converted into a hotel. Like it probably still was a manor home at that time. It's probably a hotel now. Let's be honest. We can look up where this was filmed.
I couldn't find anything.
Yeah, Villa Maiani, Rome, Italy.
Oh.
I can even bring it. Well, I'll bring it up after we're done taping because I don't want to just have people going, what are they talking about? Okay, so the sets worked. Set/settings worked. Acting worked. I even think the child actress for Barbara.
Very good kid. Very good kid. Sorry, I'm yawning.
Yeah, good acting. What else worked?
What else do you think?
There aren't a lot of wasted scenes. I actually think the pacing of this movie is pretty good because it keeps you engaged. I think when the movie gets horrific, it's horrific.
And it goes from one scene to another, just like really big time.
Yeah, it's the climax of the movie hits you hard. Yeah, it's I would say that the ending might be a little weak with like, oh, ha ha ha, it wasn't the Count, it was Ilda. She shoots him and runs out and like dies, gripping the statue and falling into the lake with it. Okay, fine. That's weak. But like the build up to the climax is all there for you to see. The weird manipulations. Like after a little while you get what's happening. You know what's happening. You don't know why it's happening.
And like, you still are left with
it's
why
Ilda
did
being
it
crazy.
Yeah, I know that, but you're like, why? Why?
What doesn't work? What doesn't work? Why?
Why
it's
it doesn't?
She wants to destroy love, but what doesn't work?
What doesn't work? I've said a few of them. The horse.
Oh, that's a minor point.
That drove me nuts.
Yeah, but that's a minor thing. I will say yes, that is a thing, but it's minor. We can't judge it via the dub.
Some of the horrific stuff was a little bit over top.
I think it made sense for the plot, though. Like, it fit into what was going on. I thought that the only thing that I felt that was over the top, honestly, was her stripping naked in front of Victor. Like
the
that
Victor
felt
whole
really,
thing.
That felt terrible. Like I really was like,
that whole Victor part was horrible.
Because no good will ever come of that. Like that has destroyed that poor man.
It also destroyed everybody else that's involved in that.
Yeah, because they just killed this guy that everyone just kind of liked.
In the very beginning, he's running with an axe, and Victor is not dangerous.
No, he's not. Everyone,
and that's what everybody says at that first part.
But yeah, everyone kind of likes him. He does this job. He chops wood. He clears brush. He's no problem. He's a nice guy. He just
injures himself.
And God, that out of all of it, that's terrible. Like yeah, okay, the school teacher hanging himself. It makes sense in the context of all of this happening. It is horrific. This is not something that doesn't work, because that's the stuff that does work.
I just think that they could have taken the Victor stuff.
Well, tone it down. Tone it down. Like
maybe making him creepily.
No. Have her use a different tact rather than sex, like and oh look at my body. Use her, like have her be like a mothering figure to him to manipulate him. That it would have been just as good, because it would have shown a different scale of manipulation.
But it was all supposed to sound like it was Belinda.
Yeah, I know that, and that's a difficulty. But
not Melinda.
I don't want to say the Victor stuff doesn't work either. It's just it makes sense. It's just it's uncomfortable.
It's very uncomfortable.
But it doesn't work. I think it's doing exactly what the movie intends it to be doing. But But I can't honestly think of anything that truly doesn't work in this movie.
And I think it rates its the IMBD rates it DB rates it exactly how I would.
6.5. I'd actually give it a little higher, believe it or not.
You'd give it a 7?
I'd give it a 7. This is a good movie. This is fully a good movie. This is a movie where, you know, I've said in, like, let's say the past 20 movies that we've reviewed, oh, this is a movie that you can have the sound off of and be perfectly fine with it because it's all it is visuals. This is visuals and intricate dialogue.
Well, you wouldn't know what's going on if you just...
No. And it's between even, and this is where I will give the dubbing credit. The voice actresses that dubbed this, or the voice actors and actresses, did a good job of conveying the slight tonal stuff, like especially with Harriet trying to like manipulate people with certain sentences or certain phrases that she's using that like get under people's skin. Very good job. The film quality, fantastic. Yeah, I recommend this, Darlene. Do you recommend it, right? Like,
yes, I wouldn't have given it a 6.5.
Well, you see, I can see that there are movies that you're like, yeah, oh, this is a fantastic movie. I just don't like it. Like,
well, that's kind of like I wouldn't watch this again myself.
But it's a good movie.
It's a
really
good movie.
Yeah, it's very well done. We do highly recommend it. And it is, at least one version is available for free on YouTube, but please support this movie by going to Amazon Prime and you can rent it there. This is a movie that's worth supporting.
Who will it go to? Just the company.
Yeah, but it's about like views and going, oh yeah, like people actually seem to like this movie. And maybe we can find other Italian suspense thriller movies from the 1960s to put up there for people to have access to. I will say that after watching this, I do want to watch more of Barbara Steele's back catalog.
There's one that a hair. How did that go?
What, The Heart of Man? She's in The Heart of Man, but she had deleted scenes in that. There's Pit and the Pendulum, which I don't think we've watched yet.
No, it's further up. The Long Hair of Death.
The Long Hair of Death from 1960. Yeah, we should look for that. There's Terror Creatures from the Grave from 65 as well, and then Nightmare Castle. I mean, she's done a lot. There's She Beast as well from 66. There is a lot of stuff that she did. Well, there's a Crimson Cult from 68. So this one of her last ones? Maybe she filmed that before this movie. Oh, it has Boris Karloff and Christopher Lee in it. Oh, wow. Yeah, okay. So there's another one we might need to watch there, The Crimson Cult. Anyway, we should leave it there. I hope everyone enjoyed listening. Yeah, this is actually a long episode because I guess we had a lot to say about it.
You had a lot to say about it.
You did too. You enjoyed it.
The Crimson what?
I don't know. I just had it up, Darlene. The Crimson Cult. There you go. But this was An Angel for Satan from 1966. We both recommend it. I'm Aaron.
I'm Darlene. Good evening.
And keep watching the skies.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
Thanks for listening to this episode of This Week in Geek. Hungry for more? Check out our website at thisweekingeek.net. You can subscribe to the podcast, browse our Twitter and Instagram, and leave your thoughts on today's topics. If you'd like to give us some feedback, send us an email at feedback@thisweekingeek.net. Tune in next time, and remember,
lower your shields and surrender your listenership.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Thank you for your cooperation. Good night.